I'm so close-minded with dicks and so open-minded with vaginas. Like, I don't know if I ever seen a vagina I didn't like.
You're a philosopher right now.
I could see a lot of bad dicks.
It's the Haribo mixed with the THC.
Well, I'm just kind of like predisposed to like one more than the other. I guess it makes sense.
What constitutes a great vagina?
I don't care. They're all fine.
I misunderstood that question.
You're
very judgmental.
If there's
of
no
penises,
pus, if there's no like sores, I'm in there.
What if one of the labia, just one of the labia, hangs far down?
All right, you got me. There you go. That's weird.
If it were
wait, okay, well now you're in a normal like vagina. Okay, so you actually do prefer.
No, but if one side of the vagina, I just pictured like a 6-inch labia, and then the other side is
6 inches.
neatly cut.
One looks like a fruit roll-up dangling out the side.
Do you think that trans technology is going to improve to the point where it's like the fake meat, where you can't be able to tell the difference?
I would have to, if you're talking about like post-op like genital surgery, I would have to look into what they even do for that. I'm not sure.
You never had sex with a?
Not to my knowledge. I don't think so. Not yet. I want to. It just hasn't happened yet.
I have a buddy who's done it a lot while sober. Yeah, he's just had sex with a post-op hole.
And how was that? What was the review?
He thinks it's the best sex he's ever had, and he gets a lot of ass though. He gets so many chicks, and he says that this one transgendered individual was the best sex he ever had because the transgender girl in question was sort of famous and would treat him like a dog, would make him walk on the opposite side of the street than her, would make him hold all of her shit, and then he would finally be rewarded for being obedient by getting to fuck her post-op hole, and he just loved it. Just loved it.
Well, he's got a very specific kink going there.
That sounds like it has nothing to do with the actual vagina and everything to do with everything going on around it.
It doesn't sound like the vagina is a big part of what's going on there.
But
people always say that like they would be able to tell and it wouldn't be good, but I feel like of the wide range of vaginas I've seen, they run the spectrum. There's a lot, like some get very wet, some don't at all, some have different types of labia, some inside, every single one feels fucking different, like you're in a new fucking cave. Like there are still girls where I'll put 2 fingers in, I reach, I was like, what the fuck is, there's like a whole other fucking section like jutting out like a stalactite, and I'm like, okay, I don't know, whatever.
Because there's so much discussion of women's labias and shit in the porn comment section or on Twitter or whatever, but then in reality the walls on the inside is like the whole thing. Because I've had sex with girls where their vagina looks like it would be super tight, but then in reality once you get in there it's a little bit cavernous. Whereas sometimes the walls are like, that's why with my girls still, like I have a fucking hard time not nutting too fast because those walls are so, they're like playing video games.
Unprofessional.
Yeah.
Okay, I've never gonna talk about
I don't
this.
know if they can hear it, but there's a lot of noise in the background. It's a lot of loud video game playing.
I'm usually in the politics space, so everybody's a virgin, so it's fun to talk to you guys about sex.
Guys, you get a lot of pussy. You know?
Yeah, of course.
Throw Danny on the list.
Something that's very interesting is you just brought that up. I've always wanted to talk about that before. People talk about tight vaginas, non-tight vaginas. I've been with women that are very tight. It's not a good feeling. You ever have a woman that's really tight, and when it's going up and down your dick, it's like this fucking like thing? But what you just described is some women who, and there are a few, I'm not going to name names, it's really weird, but there are a few who like, getting inside is very easy. They're not tight at the entrance, but the walls. I'm like in there and I'm like, we have to stop because I'm actually going to fucking come in like 30 seconds. I need you to stop for a moment.
Because it was too tight or wasn't?
It's not about tightness. It's that because for all of these people, I can just slide in, but they have these walls that are just like hugging you and they're pushing in and they're doing something. Something's going on in there.
I have a podcast I could send you that's a bunch of older porn star dudes talking about vagina. Basically, if you ever have a couple hours you want to kill on stream, like the discussion of vaginas that they had is like the most highbrow discussion of this that I've ever heard, and I heard them say so many things that I identified with, like, yes, that is true, that is a thing when you're having sex with a girl, whatever, like things I had never heard before. And that's what
majora is translucent.
When I realized the thing about the walls and how big of a deal that is, that really was another level of it. You want to know an underrated aspect of women in terms of like sort of rating them as sex partners, which obviously is not great to do explicitly, but in this business, it's part of my line of work, is just a woman's body temperature in general. Because sometimes I'll have sex with a girl on Plug Talk. We're available at onlyplugtalk.com for $5 a month, Destiny fans. And it will be like their body is like clammy and cold, especially like once they start having sex. And a lot of women sweat very easily in sex. And then on the other hand, some women, it just feels like they are so like warm, like their body and everything about them, like the blood is just well distributed in their body. And to me, that is a big factor in terms of like how much I enjoy the sexual experience. But then I also wonder if sometimes it's like they're nervous with me or some shit, and maybe that's why they're.
There's a feeling when that happens, especially their feet or their hands will get like very clammy and cold.
Clammy hands, massive turn off, especially when you go to shake somebody's hand and they have a clammy hand. Doesn't that make you feel like, oh, they're nervous, like they're not so confident here?
It's hard when you're fucking somebody though, and they have those things, because you end up basically playing Twister. Because I don't want to tell her like. Don't touch me with these body parts, because so like you're fucking them, but you're kind of trying to avoid them while not being overt about like, I don't want you to touch me with your foot because it's fucking like sub-zero temperatures.
Yeah.
So you end up in these weird positions where you've got like your legs hooked around and they're like their feet are stuck in there. It's like, okay, this is good. We don't have to worry about it. You hold their wrists down, like you're being so aggressive. It's like, I just don't want you to ruin the fucking moment, you know? But yeah, it's always funny trying to. Here's a question for you. Sometimes you got to be really firm when you're grabbing a woman's waist. You ever get women that when they go to ride you or when they go to move against you, your dick is here and their vagina's here, and their way of getting off is to push forward, like you're trying to tear your fucking.
I feel like
dick
you're gonna
off.
break it.
Yeah,
because I'm very scared of breaking my penis. I've seen it happen to better men than me.
Yeah. And and the way they move is like it's not going to come off, but it's going to if you keep doing that.
No, how a girl rides a dick is another huge factor in like how good at sex a girl is. Where some girls have just like an awkward ass flow with it, or even like if you're fucking a girl doggy style, some girls they just catch the momentum. It's like dancing. It's like they just are moving in line with your body in such a way that it's just
perfect.
Yeah, they just catch your groove right away. It's like kissing. Like you kiss a girl and it can be awkward as fuck, or it can be
the best thing ever.
Where you're just locked in.
Destany's locked in right now.
You're
going to go on a rampage tonight, aren't you, buddy?
Well, these are interesting conversations. Have you ever had somebody that tries to match rhythm with you, but they're doing it in the opposite way?
Yes.
So every time you fuck them, they move forward?
There are specific girls I could criticize for this that I would never do, because that's kind of my code in porn is that you don't ever criticize anybody. But for sure, there's just like, and it's weird though, because it's like, if I hadn't had like 500 sex partners, I wouldn't be able to make like any of these observations, and especially through doing it like on camera, whatever, that just gives me like more of an objective point of view. Whereas a lot of the sex I had throughout my life was like, you're drunk, you're fucking whatever. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever.
Sure. That's how it is for me. I'm trying to jump in with you guys right now, but I haven't had sex with a girl other than my girlfriend since 2019. And I was hammered for almost all of those. Like, it's the amount of girls that I've had sex with twice. We're talking like 2% of my overall bodies.
I think that's a sign of mental illness, that you're not able to establish connections with these girls. Even though I could probably say that about like 90% of my sex partners too.
I think it was a sign of profound insecurity, because when I was in my 20s, I was so broke and I was such a loser that having sex with a girl twice usually requires her to maybe come to your place
after the first time.
Yeah.
That too. But also, like, you can be like, when you wake up the next morning at 10 a.m., be like, oh, yeah, so I had a good time. You want to get shit-faced tonight and fuck again? Like, more likely you're going to go get lunch, or the second hangout is going to be sober. And at some point, the question is going to arise, what do you do for a living? At that time, I was a busboy in a restaurant, and I was like 28, and I was just so insecure about my professional life that I would just find excuses to not talk to girls.
When I was mostly meeting girls at the Long Beach bar scene, I felt like
Sounds so shady.
Oh, it was. I kept meeting girls who I realized, like, oh no, you're like a real alcoholic. Like, you can't hang out with me. Unless you're drunk. Because like I kept meeting chicks at the bar, and we'd have these great drunken sex nights, whatever. And then,
you wake up and she needs like 2 drinks. Like, I'm gonna go to a breakfast place. She orders like 2 or 3 fucking margaritas, and you're like, are you okay?
Because then I'm kind of starting to get older. I'm like 31, still going to these bars or whatever. I'm kind of feeling like, oh, I kind of want to like settle down or whatever. So I'm looking at the chicks I meet in that environment, like trying to take them more serious, right? And then when you realize that they just straight up do not function without alcohol, it's like, oh, maybe this is why I shouldn't be meeting chicks in a bar.
I will say, for people that are listening, this has been my experience. I don't know if it's yours, but I haven't had sex with as many people as you, but I've had sex with quite a few. I will say that the 5 best sex partners I've had in my life, if you're worried you're missing out, are all the 5 long-term relationships I've been in, bar none. And some of those, the girl started off as my worst partners. They didn't know what they were fucking doing. They were either virgins or they were nothing. And by the end, they were like if I was having threesomes with like some of these like past people, I was like, I need you to get off of me because I'm gonna come in like 2 seconds, okay? Because they know your body so well. So if you're listening, you're like, fuck, I feel like I'm missing out on a lot. It is fun to have new sex partners, but if you have a partner that's like communicative and responsive to your needs, like they will learn your body such that there's nobody there's nobody that I will ever meet that will be as fun like performance-wise on the first night as like my wife. Like it's just not gonna happen.
I remember fucking this Middle Eastern girl back in the day. And she had such a vibe the whole time we're doing it of like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. Like it's so clearly like built into her brain that like this is bad. And it was like pretty hot. I'm gonna be honest. Like, and I came like really quick, and she was just like, "Oh my god, like we shouldn't have done that. It was so bad." Yada yada. She like gathers her stuff, and she like left pretty soon after, and never hung out with me again. And that hurt the pride a little bit. This has been a clip from my new podcast, Sledge Lords with Danny Mullen. We're dropping a new episode every week, so either hit the link in the description or search up the Adam22 channel on YouTube. Appreciate you guys.